last few weeks I spent way too much time in this one game. But why?
Oh, come on, it makes no fun.
Okay. Well, maybe because I absolutely want to win a race for once.
Yeah, sure, and again first place.
Then why am I even playing this game if I'm not having fun and I don't want to win either?
I do want to have fun, but the game just won't leave me alone. Time out. I'm in my grumpy corner.
To understand why I react so grumpy to many racing games, let's take a look at the best and, at the same time, worst example. F1 from the well, doesn't matter. It has always been like this, because F1 can't do one thing at all: give the player the right amount of difficulty. Against friends in multiplayer, the concept is still okay. You quickly notice who's better or worse and can react. Better players can be given certain handicaps: racing line off, traction control, etc. Especially bad players can even turn on braking and steering assists, and of course also grab the fastest car. And even against complete strangers online, there were some interesting and balanced races. Cool thing. But then there's the career mode. There, you race against AI opponents, and they gladly ruin your entire race sometimes. Okay, this move was not clean from me either, and mixed with the AI behavior, this makes the game more alive. Because at times it feels exactly like racing against real humans, truly unpredictable, and therefore pretty cool. And then there are those high concentration phases, where nobody wants to give the other even a millisecond, until someone makes a mistake. Learning how to deal with that took a bit time, because in career mode you start with one of the worst cars on the grid. Only over time you really manage to take on the faster cars. And you also learn a lot. For example, that it wasn't very smart to invest a lot of money into a good teammate, better into a better car that benefits two drivers at once, including the most important one, me. Hi, post-production Udo here, and I've learned something again, so I think drivers, a good one at the start would be... And so F1 has a lot of interesting mechanics in career mode, but also in general as a simulation game in the car, with tons of stuff to learn and improve it. There are many mechanics that want to be learned, to squeeze out another second, to get through corners better, to improve fuel management and use the different modes properly. But the most important thing, don't spin out. That can ruin a 20-minute race in a few seconds. But all of these mechanics only make sense if the framework always stays the same. To be precise, the opponents. To be more precise, the average speed of each opponent. Because that, along with other factors, determines the race result of an AI the most. But wait. Who actually decides how fast the NPCs are? At first I thought the player in the settings. The higher the value, the faster. And yes, that's true, but what exactly gets faster? Because if you look closely, it's not one constant, but many small gears. Each AI has its own internal values for driving precision, risk behavior, maximum cornering speed, reaction time, probability of making mistakes, and more. That makes races more exciting. But wait, it never really feels like individual NPCs are especially good on certain tracks and others are not. No, instead it feels like all of them suddenly became significantly better than in the race before. And here we've arrived at the most important point that defines the difficulty of an AI on a specific track. Each AI may drive with slightly different behavior, but always on the same racing line. So you can assume that the individual AIs always reach their best values right here in Austria. And yes, if you repeat a race in Austria or qualifying session with best lap timing, you get very similar values and similar placements. And not exactly identical, because the AI does have small ranges in its values, but also not far apart. The internal values are well balanced. So far, so good. But switch to the next track, and with the same setting, I'm suddenly lost. Even though I would subjectively say I can drive this track better than the previous one, at least against human players, but not against the AI. So I make the AI slower. Wait, second problem. How much slower? What do those numbers even mean? And that's where the long testing begins. Over the days I created small lists. If the track is driven fast by the AIs, and I find it difficult, or it has tight walls, then the difficulty goes way down. If I know the track well, it goes back up again. Well, unless the weather is bad, then back down. But even that didn't really solve it, because over the course of the day I also get a little bit better through practice. On bad days, or after 3 hours of playing, concentration drops again. But that doesn't mean I always want to stop playing. And by now I'm asking myself, why doesn't F1 manage to at least provide a consistent difficulty for the AI, when the player on the other side definitely fluctuates in skill and needs a way to compensate for that? Well, another huge thing is that the AI didn't drive the track on its own. Most racing games create the racing line by having developers or a professional driver take on the track in a simulator. And from that, the ideal line, braking points, braking intensity, and steering angles are created, which can then be optimized in the development software. Of course, the best lap times are used, which is a pretty good racing line, but there is no 100%, because in the end, a few humans are executing and deciding. And human behavior creeps into the AI racing line. If the person switches to another track where they have more experience, they might brake more aggressively, or set up their car differently, blast through the chicane with more confidence, or in the worst case, it's not even the same racing line driver anymore, but a completely different one with a different driving style and race understanding.
The racing
line in games is not perfect, because it is usually created manually and only optimized by software. But the software does not try to preserve specific parameters for consistency. Instead, it follows mathematical logic. Small wobbles and inaccuracies are removed, but the fundamental racing behavior of the test driver is not.
Denn wie gut die NPCs.
How good the NPCs, the AIs, are on a specific track mainly depends on the line. But of course, it's not just the racing line itself, but also how it's handled on very difficult tracks. For example, very narrow ones like Monaco. The risk of slamming into the wall is extreme, and therefore human players drive very cautiously. The AI is more precise and drives the line as if there were spaces left and right, spaces that a not so trained human player would need because of his small steering nuances. So the racing line alone is not to blame. There is also a lack of adjustment of AI values for more difficult tracks. Tracks that the game itself even describes as very challenging. But the AI don't behave that way. And there are even more problems that we haven't talked about today at all. Different simulation models for players and AIs. Or it's my €30 cheap wheel that doesn't know the difference between slight braking and full braking. Or maybe it's a wrong tuning setup on my car, just a bit less downforce, but then I fly out of the course again and
durch die Kurven.
Underneath the streetlights halo, working stiffs trying to hit a free throw. Life in the city, ain't it a pity? Doo-wop sounds telling their own ditty. Ain't that a city side? Watching as life goes by in the heart of the town. Its ups and its downs and the do